Hello everyone, it is Zigzag here. Welcome back to Geoguessr Explained, and welcome back to Mastering Geoguessr. Today's country, as voted by you guys in the comments last time, is the United States of America. A very, very fun country, one of the best countries in Geoguessr in my opinion, and definitely one I'm excited to teach you guys a bit about. So, United States of America is today. Let me know what you want the next Mastering Geoguessr episode to be, whatever's the most upvoted in the comments. I will do. Check out what's already been done in the playlist on the channel. And let's get to it. So, as usual, I'm going to go through the Plonket guide. Now, on the United States, I think this is the longest Plonket guide. So that will be half of the video. You can skip forward to the gameplay section if you're more interested in that. Gameplay plus tips. And let's get into things here. And I'll skip over stuff I don't find that useful. But obviously, they use the imperial system in the US. This is a great way to tell it apart from Canada. So you'll often see kilometers per hour on on Canadian signs and signs in other countries. And oftentimes, even if you can't read what's underneath, just using logic about the speed limit, like obviously miles per hour are a lot less than kilometers. So you can often just logic it out what the speed limit should be, and then kind of, even if you can't make it out, work out if it's US or Canada for that reason. Generation 2 is really rare in the US outside of Alaska and Hawaii. So you definitely should consider that if it's Generation 2, probably going to be Canada if you're between the two. US signs use more words than Canadian ones, which is actually useful. So yield is on US signs, whereas on the Canadian version of yield, there is nothing. I think this is also a good way to remember this is because in Canada they are bilingual a lot of the time, so it makes sense for them to use less words. Same thing in Europe, right? It's also interesting that they have the exact same railroad crossing sign as Australia. I reckon. Speed limit on what does it say? What does it say? It says maximum on Canadian ones, but it just says speed limit on US ones, so that's good. No passing zone. This is a unique one. The kind of Dorito shaped one. Very good for getting US highways. One ways. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just similar in Canada, right? Same shape and color, but may not have the words one way. Okay, interesting. Didn't know that. Parking signs will typically have a red or green border in the US, whereas in Canada they almost always have a black border, which I find actually a really useful clue. I use that quite a lot, so keep that one in mind. Green signs, US. Okay, yes. Road ending signs in Canada, you get quite a different style. They use this one in Quebec, but elsewhere in Canada they use a different one. So this is this is pretty good for the United States. Very useful. Fiber optic cable thing is occasionally found in Canada, but mostly found in the US with this style. I would say that's quite a useful one. Obviously, double yellow lines is what they like to do in the United States. Rumble strips are pretty common. These kind of like small rectangular houses are common in the South. Baptist churches common in the South. Okay, it's an interesting guide. It gets right into detail. Interestingly, I guess it's because yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they price the petrol by gallons, so that's also useful. Bunch of unique fast food restaurants. Okay, so let's get into US and Canada tips. So US and Canada will use these signposts a lot with the teeth in them or the indent in them. You can also get these in like Turkey, maybe, I think. But yeah, like that tends to be for those two. Wooden poles. Like, yeah, almost always we'll see wooden poles in the United States as opposed to anything else, which is definitely a good tip. This single insulator is quite common in US and US influenced countries like Philippines, Canada, whatever. South American countries as well. This is a letterbox that you would associate with US, and definitely these ones are more common in US than Canada. American lorries are pretty useful for getting like North and South America. Like South America will have a mix of both. North America will always have these ones. And then these ones don't really appear too much outside of the Americas, whereas this is like the international version. Though to be fair, you can get these in Australia, actually. They'll often write the name of the town on water towers. There will be, generally speaking, no antenna for the vast majority of everything. Number plates, I've been over that in my number plates video recently, so if you want to go in depth on number plates, then you can learn them. Obviously, they're blurred, so it does take some effort to get to know the different patterns, but it is definitely gettable. Chicago Geographer also has some good videos about that. Interstates are set out in a certain pattern. You can investigate that for yourself, but they start out in California, I think. Area codes are quite good in the United States. They really are quite overpowered if you can remember them all, but they're not set to a pattern. So you have to do quite some work to get them memorized, which I did and took me upwards of 15 hours, so not an easy task. State flags, I don't know, but they do show up, so it's quite useful. You can definitely learn those. Obviously, you got the Appalachians in the east and the big mountains in the west. We'll cover that later on in the video. Forests tend to be like around the mountains or just generally speaking in the east. Obviously, we have the Great Plains here where there's just no forest, and that is pretty useful. Corn is very useful in that corn belt here that starts in Ohio and goes to the Dakotas. Very useful one, I have to say. You really got to know where your corn is. Soybeans is also pretty useful. I don't use it as much because it obviously spans even more north to south. But you could definitely use that to get a decent region guess. Like you wouldn't really expect to see it outside the Great Plains and Midwest too much. Yellow canola, mostly on the Canadian border, and it's also very common in Canada, so watch out for that. Cotton tends to be in the south. I mean, in Texas a lot and on the Mississippi a lot. I rarely use that one. I don't think it shows up too often, but it's definitely good to know. Rice is grown in north of the Bay and then also on the Mississippi Delta kind of region, I guess. Pretty useful. Oil, definitely New Mexico and North Dakota, the ones where you see it the most. Texas too. Great Plains, grassy. These puddles in the north is definitely something you see. Appalachian Mountains, pine trees. You can learn the different species. The loblolly is really common in the south. It has long needles, and definitely the eastern white pine. I don't know if it's on here, but it should be because that's the other very distinctive pine tree, and they kind of divide north and south, which is really useful. Red soil tends to lean you southeast, though it can be found elsewhere as well, of course. A lot of this stuff is pretty basic. Sagebrush is a really good plant. This plant is found not near the Mexican border and not too much near the Canadian border, but in the central western part of the country. And particularly common, yeah, in like Wyoming and Utah. It's a very useful plant. Saguaro cactus, huge cacti. They're found on the Arizona border with Mexico. Douglas firs found northwest. Temperate rainforests in the Pacific Northwest, pretty useful, but it takes a while to get used to what they look like. Obviously, these big red mountains. So, I mean, we talked about red soil in the south, but obviously the soil is extremely red in some parts of the west as well. So, it's just about learning the different kinds of landscapes, of course. Palm trees are pretty rare in the United States, all things considered, but definitely most common in Florida and California. And you can also see them in the deep south part of Texas and along the south border, generally speaking. You can get like a very Mexican-looking landscape right down on the border. Spanish moss is this stuff. It grows off trees. It's definitely common just in the deep southeast, and it does show up quite a lot of that. Golden fields. This is quite an underrated one. I feel like a lot of new players really struggle with this because it is challenging at first, but this kind of golden grass with a flat, somewhat agricultural landscape, potentially, is very much eastern Washington, but I would also say northern eastern Oregon, too. I'm not really sure why it's only Washington. Fruit trees in California. Nebraska hills or sand hills, the kind of rolling, pleasant hills you get in western Nebraska. Okay, and then Ozark is another mountain region. A lot of landscape stuff, but now we're onto infrastructure. So you're going to get higher speed limits out in the west, especially Texas is the only place you're going to see 85. And also Texas is the only one that does it by county, apparently. State highway shields is not something I've ever actually gone and learned. Many of them are completely easy. For example, they'll have the state shape on them or something like that. For example, like Missouri. But they're definitely something worth learning, especially if you're going to play moving. Adopt a highway, same thing if you're going to play moving. These are probably pretty good to learn. Yellow and blue shields are apparently... Oh, they will actually have the name of the state in some states. Okay, I actually didn't know that. Somehow that had eluded me. Here's a great one that was only discovered not too long ago, but reflectors are actually very useful in the United States. So this is kind of like the Australian, British style reflector, I would say. You see it a lot in like ex-British colonies and stuff, especially in the richer ones. And the US actually does a lot of them in the South and then all the West. It's really easy to remember because it's literally just every bordering state all the way at the South, with the exceptions of Arkansas and Massachusetts. So I would say it's quite a useful one. The indented ones are more so just like kind of central northeast, which is a good one as well. Brown guardrails tend to be in national parks. Wouldn't worry about that. Concrete pavement is common in Iowa and kind of spills out from there, so you see it there as well a bit. Wide lines is also really nice meta. So you see this in the southern region, in the northwest, and sometimes in Michigan. A few other states you can occasionally see them. But yeah, they're noticeably wider than these ones, for example. And then thick road lines are common in the Virginias. Speed instead of speed limit, you can see in Oregon sometimes. A black line between the double yellows you can see in California. Triple yellows you can see on California and rarely elsewhere. European style road lines where you just have like two whites on the outside can be seen in California, which is fun because California is also probably the most ambiguous looking state, so I enjoy the fact that they use these road lines sometimes. It makes for some nice bait rounds. This is the Nevada bollard, probably the most useful bollard in the US. This is the second most useful bollard, the diamond bollard. That one can be mostly seen in Montana, South Dakota, but also North Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska. Front and back of the Washington bollard, it's brown with a double reflector on one side. Yeah, definitely saw this quite a lot when I visited Washington. Streets in Utah and Idaho will use a number and a cardinal direction. Never used that, but I think it's pretty useful. Texas Road, very grainy. Also very grainy, but more kind of like a salt and pepper, is the Midwestern roads, centering around Illinois. Red and yellow stickers on the signpost in Texas. This configuration in Kansas. This sign thing in Minnesota, very good tips. This one for Minnesota as well, very good tip. ATV route in Wisconsin, you see it every now and again. The ATV sign is also really common but a different one is very common in Quebec, so keep an eye out for that. Wisconsin sticker is the best palmetto in all of the United States apart from the Californian yellow stripes. This one will give you Wisconsin or Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and it's pretty much on all the polls. Wisconsin bollard, see it every now and again. So they have similar markers elsewhere to these, so I think I would skip on that one. Double signpost is very common in Michigan. And the two signposts are not attached on the back, as far as I remember. Hanging traffic lights, also Michigan meta. This circle for county roads is West Virginia. It actually does show up every now and again. Thick... I'm not sure if that's actually the font here. I think it's actually the format here with the arrow. Would be North Carolina. This you see every now and again on the back of stop signs in Oklahoma. This type of sign. There's a lot of like state-specific metas with these ones. You can check them out if you want. I would say useful. Useful. Square guardrails. You see those a lot in New York. They're called New York guardrails, but also they show up in Wyoming. Not so useful, I think. Not so useful. Yeah, you see these bollards in the northeast, max northeast. They're kind of Christmas-colored ones relatively often. Rock walls should normally be up in the max northeast area. These fences are like kind of central eastern, and I think they're pretty useful. Stilts houses, definitely more common in that south area, along the coast, but also in the east. Also stilts houses, but kind of poorer looking down the south coast for the tornadoes, whatever, hurricanes. What are they called? Yeah, hurricane, tornado, whatever. This is like the shape of building you get a lot in Texas. Shingled walls are very common, like on Cape Cod and around there. Yep, all the kind of townhouse things, whatever you want to call them. Brownstone architecture, particularly common east. These red roofs are common kind of more central southeast and central eastern. Pretty interesting clue there. Pueblo revival houses is pretty obviously going to be in the desert with those. Spanish colonial revival, definitely California / Arizona meta, but you can see them elsewhere, as you can see on the map. And yeah, timber houses out west, that's definitely a meta. Okay, now we go into store chains. You can check these out for yourself. I personally find these metas leave a bit to be desired. And then we have very specific metas here. Art Deco style in Miami, pretty cool buildings, but not particularly useful in my opinion. Floridian dense kind of jungle is obviously the tropical biome that you get all the way south. And I think we're coming to the end of anything I find particularly useful. Yeah, that's about it. So, I think we made it through that in relatively good timing. And yeah, I guess just for US, like the good thing is it's quite an intuitive country. There's not much car meta. So it's all about like just getting into the weeds and learning like about, how to, guess based on the landscape, which I particularly enjoy. But let's have a look at the coverage quickly. So obviously US has very extensive coverage here. You get it pretty much throughout the whole country. I mean, Maine has pretty sparse coverage up north. New York surprisingly has like relatively few like good coverages in the north part of the state, upstate New York. Upper Peninsula also pretty sparsely covered. And then out west, obviously, everything gets a bit more sparse. Nevada, you can pretty much learn Nevada because it's got relatively few main roads. But most other states have very good coverage, especially in comparison to some other countries. Alaska's definitely one that's worth sitting down with and playing, and you have to keep in mind they do have quite a bit of coverage in Generation 2 and 3 on these like little inlet towns, so definitely worth keeping in mind that. Hawaii has full coverage. Then in terms of other places you can get on US map is North Mariana Islands and Guam, which I will cover actually all the car metas in like islands and stuff in another video soon. So if you want to learn about those, hit subscribe. US Virgin Islands is both here and here. Puerto Rico obviously has pretty decent coverage there. And I think that's all the US overseas stuff that gets covered, or American Samoa as well. It's just here, and it gets all 3 islands covered. So yeah, that is US according to the Plunkett Guide. I guess we'll have a quick look at the terrain here, even though it's pretty known to most people. Out west, obviously, you got extreme mountains. The Rocky Mountains run from Colorado up here, and they are, of course, very tall. Some of the tallest in the US, of course. Colorado is going to be like completely flat east, very mountainous west. Most people know this. You get like some valleys, for example, like the Salt Lake City Valley and the valley that kind of runs through Idaho. It kind of makes sense. Appalachians, so they kind of start like over here in Alabama and then just all the way up. And you get a sense for them because the trees are different in the east to the west. I'll try and point some of that out. But yeah, the mountains pretty much go the whole way up. You're going to see like some interesting mountainous areas, for example, the Ozarks here. Missouri is tending to be pretty hilly, whereas Illinois is extremely flat. So there is some contrast there for sure. The driftless area in southwestern Wisconsin often catches out new players or even experienced players because it's so surprisingly hilly here. Same thing in some parts, like around the border here in Wisconsin, Minnesota, I mean. Western South Dakota gets some mountains in the Black Hills National Forest. And then, yeah, like the more west you go, even if it appears flat on the map, you will just see random mountains or random big hills out here. which probably are pretty visible on the map, I would say. Yeah, you're definitely in the hills by that stage, so... Yeah, and then Alaska, obviously, very mountainous down near Anchorage, but you get flat sections and mountainous sections in Alaska, and the coverage goes all the way out to Prudhoe Bay, which looks like this. Pretty distinctive coverage, I would say. And then Hawaii is, of course, mountainous the whole way through, but you do get some flat stuff on Big Island, I suppose. Can look relatively flat. It's kind of a cool round, by the way. Where do you go here? Probably Big Island, but still. Yeah, so that's pretty much all we needed to discuss for that. So let's jump into some games here. I'll try and explain my thought process. And bear in mind, I'm not really a US pro by any means, just an enthusiast. I do enjoy guessing on this country, but if anything's too difficult for me, I'm just going to go past it. I'll just try and explain the ones that are fairly gettable. So immediately I'm noticing red soil here, leading me southeast. I don't see any like trees that are immediately complete southeast vibes though, so I would say we're starting off with a fairly difficult round here. Smallish house, some like cedars or something like that, right? Oh, we have an area code there. If I was really sweating, I would try and read it, but I can't quite read it, so it's okay. Yeah, so it doesn't give me an East Coast vibe, although I could see maybe Carolinas. Instead, I'm wondering maybe about just like a Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee kind of vibe here. The red soil's a little suspicious, but the rest of the round does not feel that tropical. Kind of got rolling hills here. I don't know. Yeah, I could be quite wrong here. I'm just going to go for Tennessee, though. And it was there. Nice. Just over the border in Kentucky, but we'll always take that on the US. Next one here, extremely cold feeling off the bat. And I can almost guarantee this is going to be Alaska based on just looking at this fireweed here, these purple flowers, these pink flowers. That would be very strange for elsewhere. And of course, we see big mountains there, so we know we are going to be in Alaska. Now, it would be difficult if you're playing for the first time because this looks fairly normal. But yeah, you got this fireweed here. You got these like birch, aspen looking trees here. Big mountains. Generation 3 coverage. So yeah. Where do I think this is? Let me actually think about that. It should be... I wonder, actually. Not too sure what to make of it. Maybe like this road here could make some sense to me. I think it's Gen 3 here. Oh, it's just side road over there. Okay. I forget, actually, if the Valdez Road is Gen 3 or Gen 4 right now. Okay, this is extremely dead. We have sagebrush everywhere. That plant that I was seeing is like mostly like around this region. But yeah, with this like extremely depressing landscape, very few trees, just bushes everywhere. First thought's always Wyoming, but like Nevada, Utah. I mean, these three really come to mind when you said this kind of depressing landscape, I would say. Okay, so we see big mountains southwest of us. And do we see a lake there or what's going on here? It's hard to say, isn't it? They're definitely mountains, so I think there might be a lake involved. I don't know. Like, it could be like around... We could be looking down southwest of these mountains here. I kind of like that in the Wind River Reservation. Just as easily, though, I could see this being out this direction. So, I don't know. I mean, this lines up, so I might just try it, but I think it's going to be here or south. I don't really see it being too much further north. It doesn't look like Montana. Let's find out. And it was actually in Nevada, so it was one of the three I mentioned, but all the way on the California border, and we see that we were looking at probably some kind of a lake at least. Difficult round. Yeah, it did look like Nevada, like nothing going on. I think we would have seen some trees here, maybe. I don't know. I just saw the mountains lined up quite nicely, and to be fair, it's a similar angle. Next one, south vibes. Oh, we didn't actually mention... Is there nothing about front license plates in the... Okay, well, I mentioned this in my video the other day, but you don't require front license plates everything south of this line in the US. Exceptions are California, you need them, and Texas, you need them. The two biggest population states. Everything else, you need them down here. You don't need them, sorry. Kentucky, you also don't need them. Kansas, you also don't need them. And every state that touches Ohio, doesn't need them, as well as Delaware. So yeah, that's, or is it Maryland? I think it's Delaware. Wait, is it Maryland or Delaware? I forget. One of those two. Yeah. So yeah, no front plates like we see here is already a big clue. And I'm thinking southern. We have like very American looking bins here. Okay, so now I'm looking for one of those pines that I was telling you about. We didn't. Okay, we got like a. That's this tree. I wonder if that's a live oak. I don't think it's a live oak. Anyway, road's a little red, but it's also very pale. Soil is a bit red, but also kind of hard to make out. A difficult round here again. It kind of reminds me of the last one we clicked Tennessee on. This occasion, though, we don't have front plates. Oh, that's almost visible, you know. Oof. Oh, we have a black band around the pole. That tends to be like a Midwest meta. Oh, we got blue on the bottom of the pole, of the plate. I think that might be Kentucky plate. Blue on the bottom like that. It looks fairly Kentucky. I think Kentucky often has very pale roads, so I will try that. And it was Oklahoma. Oh, that was an Oklahoma plate. Yeah, it makes sense. It might have been a live oak then, actually. Okay, very pale road. So, lack of pine trees. So there's a lot of pines, like on drawing a line like this. But when you get east of the Appalachian, there are definitely less. And then obviously there's tons of different pines out here. I'm wondering with this extremely pale road, no reflectors, and I guess lack of pines, maybe Kentucky would come to mind here. Could see it. Give that a go. Just Missouri. Unfortunate. The seed started well, but round 2, 3, 4, and 5 were a bit tough there. Okay. So we're growing, I think, soy and corn. So obviously that's kind of defaulting us to like a center hedge of here. And I would say that just vibes-wise and landscape-wise, this feels like maybe Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas to me. But I'm really bad at the Great Plains, so I'll probably just go like eastern Nebraska here and call it a day. We're on a grid of north-south as well, which makes sense for the Great Plains. They tend to do just about everything on a north-south grid out here. I'm a little worried for further north, like South Dakota, but I could... yeah, I'll probably like go like that, because it can be further north, but at the same time it can be further south, and that's the joy of the Great Plains, I guess. Let's give it a go. Oh! Okay, my marker somehow ended up in Wyoming there, but I wanted to go here in Nebraska. So we were correct. You guys know. At least that didn't happen in a duel or something. Next one here. Agricultural. South hills. We have quite dry hills. That's immediately making me vibe much more out west with dry hills. We got some poplars. Also probably lean me out west. These tall trees here. And this ridge is to our south. So, 2 thoughts here. I mean, my main 2 thoughts on this round, or main 3 thoughts are Idaho, Oregon, Washington, maybe Montana. Actually, yeah. That's really the states I think are most possible here. Maybe Utah as well, if we want to make it 5. And, I mean, there are other possibilities, of course, but yeah. Small South Ridge does remind me a lot of, like, stuff you get over here with the South Ridge. Are we going perfectly east-west? We are, so that would make sense. Yeah, seems like there's more stuff to our east here, so... yeah, maybe we could be like over here, looking at kind of easterly hills. Yeah, they kind of taper off like this. Could be like there. Could be. I definitely don't mind the idea. Okay, we'll go for that. I think this is a fairly typical Idaho landscape. The thing is, it's Generation 3, and I'd normally expect Gen 4 here, but let's give it a go. Nice, it was those hills there, so that's a good guess. It's a good to know the topography in the US. It's one of the most useful things. Okay, here we have a very red road. That's the first thing I noticed, which is pretty useful. A property marker there. So with this kind of red road and a slightly rolling landscape with corn, I was considering Wisconsin. Now, the problem with Wisconsin here is we don't have any of those stickers on the poles that I was talking about. So I think you kind of have to move away from Wisconsin at that point. So you could just go over to Minnesota here. I feel like Minnesota's quite a good shout, given that fact. Do we have any double signposts? Oh, there's that yellow triangle we were talking about. Double signpost, not so much. Not so much, to be fair. Okay, so other options here would be South Dakota, Nebraska, North Dakota, I would say. That's interestingly hilly, right? I don't know if I should go Minnesota or South Dakota here. I think that's my two thoughts. Tend to be a lot of red roads in this kind of central region, like Great Plains region. Yeah, it's more rolling lines. I'm going to go around Sioux Falls here, I think. Okay, it was just where I had it clicked. Damn it. That's okay. Team Jewel, I can send the second guy there, surely. Okay, 573. Let's see if I can get it. Well, let's look at the landscape first. Okay, so immediately autumn coverage leans me up here. They just like know that this is a beautiful part in the autumn, so they just tend to send the Google cars there a lot during the autumn. Apart from that, lack of pine trees here is a bit suspicious, perhaps. I'm also looking for a rock wall. This feels like it might be in rock wall territory, though I might be wrong about that. But it seems like we can't find any anyway. Okay, so let's have a look here. So 573 on my system, I convert them to letters. So that would be L-I-C, which, if I'm not mistaken, is actually Missouri. I think it's Missouri, or it's southwestern Ohio. I think actually with this kind of forest, being near Mark Twain Forest would make quite some sense here. It felt a bit too cold for that though at first, which is a bit concerning. I mean, I'm relatively certain this is that phone code is either Ohio or Missouri, which sucks, but yeah, I'm gonna go here, which I think with the hilly landscape and the lack of pines makes sense, but you kind of have to vibe it out to some extent, and it was nice. Those phone codes do come in clutch sometimes. Next one here, very cold looking landscape here. We have that indented reflector, which is most common like Pennsylvania through this kind of region here. So that's good to know. We have front plates here, obviously also helpful. This plate here with the yellow on the bottom might remind me of Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania and West Virginia both do not use front plates because they touch Ohio. So, where are we? Everyone's got front plates here. Everyone's rocking the front plates. Maybe just Virginia. Maybe just Virginia. It looks kind of cold, so we have eastern white pines finally. This is the northern style of pine. Very distinctive, I would say. Yeah. No. I think it should actually just be Virginia here, unless New York also has these reflectors. But I was relatively sure that this is just the eastern reflector. I think so. So yeah, then I would go Virginia here. Oh, and it was just what? This is so baity, bro. Every car using front plates. 1, 2, 3 in a row. That is fast, bro. That is pretty crazy. Okay, we did have a Pennsylvania plate here, and three random front plates in a row. That is just, I mean, I don't really personally see there's much to be done about that. But at least we got 18K. Not to mention that this was meant to be in Nebraska, so it would have been 20K, which would have been a nice score. Okay, next one here, immediate south vibes, but could be wrong about that. Let's have a look around. Actually, could be north here. Actually a difficult round. So we have, this is just a forest where you have to vibe out the trees, to be honest. Any reflectors on the road? No. Maybe, actually. Not really. Oh, gosh. I get these ones quite wrong sometimes. We have red dirt. Yeah. So I'm going to go Alabama. Yeah. Just trust the red dirt on that occasion. The trees were not giving much away. Red road here. Immediately useful. I think this might actually be Wisconsin this time. But It's a bit... There's weird hills for Wisconsin, to be fair. Okay, I have to think about this a bit harder. Interesting bollards, not familiar. Some going on back there. Okay. Nothing on the pole. So again, not Wisconsin probably. Without those pole stickers, a good way to confirm. Do we have things in between? We do have the lowered things in between here, I think. Yeah, I think we have those same reflectors. And we have front plates here. And that plate, oh, this looks distinctive. It's like blue on either side with something in the middle. I'm trying to vibe that out. It almost looks like the Oklahoma plate, but I'm certain this is not Oklahoma. The landscape is wrong. So, what is that then? I don't know. This red road actually might be lying. I mean, I tend to trust that highly as a meta, but this just feels like it's Appalachian. And you don't really get red roads in the Appalachians, but I feel like this is an exception then. Okay. One front plate is all we have to go off of here. It kind of looks like a Ohio or Pennsylvania plate to me, though. So that doesn't make much sense. Neither of those are front plate states. Okay, if I was trusting the red road, then I would probably just go like Minnesota-Wisconsin border. But I don't know. This is like a mine, though. It might actually... No, I think we're in the Appalachians. I think this hill's too suspicious not to be Appalachian. I'm going to go here. Yeah. Okay, just a Maryland red road. Maybe I have seen them there, but they're very rare for sure. Okay. Maryland plates there. Yeah, makes sense. This, I was going to say, immediately just like gives massive Nevada vibes with absolutely nothing going on. Sagebrush everywhere. And sure enough, we have the Nevada bollard, as I said, one of the most useful ones. At this point, you line up the road. It's a sealed road, but it's not divided. And you angle it up. And pick one that looks rather similar. Okay. Yeah, that will definitely do. Immediately cold vibes. Oh, these are very short pined trees. Very short needles. Feels northeasterly for that reason, I think. What is this? Like a Virginia pines look similar, I think. So maybe I'll try that. Any reflectors? No reflectors. That leans you further north. But some of these leaves feel a bit further south. Like this kind of leaf. Even in Europe, you get these ones, and they're just... I forget what they're called. There is a term for these ones where they fray out like this into little leaves. Geonebula could tell me if he's watching. But yeah, I would probably go like here. Okay, interesting. Inside... I think it was a Virginia pine. We're very close to the Virginia border, but I got kind of a coastal vibe there, and it was not at all. It's near Knoxville. Not too bad. I think it's an okay guess, but yeah. Oh, this immediately feels south. Sandy. Yeah, okay, I think this is Florida. Like, it's so sandy, and it's like, we've got like just groundwater, like on the side of the road. And we have a reflector inside. Okay. No front plate. We actually see a hill, like a decline in like elevation here, so maybe Georgia instead. But it's probably somewhere near the border here. Oh, and it's actually Alabama. That's a lot of white sand for up there, but it does make sense with the elevation change. Not a bad seed there by any means. Okay, Great Plains here, corn plus completely flat. Very dark soil, I'm noticing, pretty fertile here. Wide open dirt road. This reminds me of Dakotas, to be honest. I would go South Dakota here, I think. I could see North Dakota. I don't know, it just feels like one of those two. Minnesota, that's fine. Definitely just had that vibe about it that you have to kind of pick up from playing. Big blue bar on the top with red text at the bottom. That reminds me of Illinois, maybe Minnesota. We have a hill, which is a bit concerning, but it's only one car. It might have traveled from Illinois. It's got a high population. This definitely feels like Midwest again, though. Corn plus flat. And the road is kind of salt and pepper, which you would expect there. Some hills to our east. I don't know. If anything... So we have front plate 1, front plate 2, front plate 3, front plate 4. So we're definitely clicking a front plate state. I was tempted by Indiana here, but really shouldn't be. Okay. Yeah, so I would probably just go like eastern Iowa near Illinois here. I feel like they are, you know, on their way north or on their way out of Illinois, maybe in Wisconsin or something. I don't know. No stickers on the polls though, guys. So we're not gonna go Wisconsin. I'm gonna go here. Okay, it was actually just over the border from Illinois. That makes sense. In Missouri, definitely an interesting landscape caused by being so close to a river. And I would say that was fairly difficult. Yeah. Oh, look, that's Illinois there. Yeah. Definitely felt further north to me, so tough. Okay, red road with a round reflector. Thinking Sioux Falls here. Yeah. So with a round reflector, okay, and some hills. Okay, so corn with a red road. We're thinking South Dakota or Nebraska with that combination, I would say. And round reflector is probably most common in like Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Nebraska. So I think we'll try on the Nebraska side of the border here. Yeah. This is California. So immediately, like, well, if I squint, it looks like South Australia. So that's how I can be pretty certain. And then I check the road lines with the black tar in between. It's pretty subtle here. On an older road, you can definitely tell more easily. We've got a reflector here, which is also... Actually, it's not a proper one, to be fair. Never mind. Golden grass is very common over here, but also in California. But obviously, this is too hilly of a landscape to have been in the Washington. Like, Washington gets quite flat where it has the golden grass. To me, this just looks like here or something. Like, it's either side of the valley. I'm not sure which side. Yeah, okay, to me this looks like here somewhere, maybe. Okay, just the other side of the valley. Tough one. We'll take a look maybe for a phone number first. I think that's not useful. Okay, sagebrush everywhere. No front. Bollards, speed limit. Blue on the plate there. No front is interesting. Sagebrush plus no front would theoretically lead you towards Arizona. Even it's not really common in Arizona. Maybe Nevada. I think Nevada they often don't follow the laws with the fronts, so it's quite a commonly used road here. That's interesting. Maybe I'll be thinking like, what's the angle? East west here. Okay, that's really interesting. And it's not a divided road. I'm not too sure what's going on here. I could see this just being like a road entering... I don't know. Anything there? It might... That's probably the... That's probably the state code. Can I read that? I think it's NV. I think it's Nevada. Is Nevada NV? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I would say it's Nevada. Now, can we get the town name? Oh, that's going to be harder. Let's try and compare. Let's start with a P, maybe? Tonopah? No. Fallon? No. Fernley? This could be Fernley. Okay. East-West Road, but kind of bending like that. Okay. I think it's Fernley. I think we are somewhere nearby Fernley here. Reno Highway? I think this does not look like the 5K, but it was promising that. We want something looking like that, though. It's not the 80, that's a divided road. Could be this white one. Kinda low on options here, unfortunately. But was going north there to our east. Again, that looked almost good, but not quite. Okay, well, let's see. It was Reno, but I tend to believe that actually did say firmly, which is a pretty good effort, getting us to 18.7. I mean, sometimes, you know, on US, there's a lot of info available, so you'd go for some fun stuff. Okay, immediately palm trees here, so that's immediately putting us just south, of course. Very pale road here, a bit sandy. Thought of Florida. Definitely thought of Florida. It's dead flat. Ooh, that's an interesting number plate. Looks like a New Mexico number plate or something. Wouldn't trust that this is New Mexico, though. Yeah, I mean, it's so flat. We have, like, kind of nice new houses. Very southern looking trees. I could see anywhere along the south coast all the way to Texas, but I think Florida. Yeah. Ooh. Wait, I immediately got a vibe for eastern Colorado here. There's nothing going on. It's just the fact that it's like Gen 3 and like weirdly flat, but the road doesn't look Texan. And we don't have the right vegetation for New Mexico, probably. It could be actually out here. Yeah, so it's obviously north-south, and yeah, I'm gonna try it. Let's go here. It was actually on the panhandle of Oklahoma. I can definitely live with that. Okay, immediately Hawaii, like, for so many reasons. This, like, side of the road thing here, like, kind of fading into a brown is so Hawaiian. Even just the road being, like, brown in the middle. Red soil, like, looks like Brazil would be very Hawaii. Huge yellow thing on the pole is Hawaii. Like, Asian-looking vegetation here. Front plates. I don't know. What more can you really ask for? Which island, though, is more interesting, I could admit. I'm not sure which island this is. We got mountains northeast. We got a lot of traffic here. I'm relatively certain this is either Big Island or Oahu. But probably just going to go Big Island here, I think. Oh, it's Oahu. Oops. Guess with a lot of traffic, that makes sense. Next one here. Some suburb. This is going to be difficult. Okay, palms with, like, yeah, that neo-colonial Spanish architecture. Probably California then, I think. Yeah. But is it LA? I don't know if this gave me LA vibes. I think it's a bit wrong for LA. It could be East Coast, actually. Wait, I'm actually not sure about the coast here. That's pretty bad. I mean, suburban's pretty difficult. We got front plates, though, right? I think it's a Cali plate. I think I see blue on the bottom and red on the top, vaguely. And with the Spanish stuff, that would make perfect sense, right? LA or Bay? Huh. The Spanish-ish stuff makes me want to go more south. But the fact that we're on a hill is weird for LA, right? We'd have to be, like, kind of in some of these suburbs near the hills. It doesn't feel quite that rich, but I suppose it's pretty rich. I'll try it. Oh, and it was... Okay, what's this? Laredo Ranch. Some, like, gated community or something, maybe. Not bad. Definitely not bad. Take that. We can get 20k here. That would be nice. Don't think these mean anything. Maybe in a few years when people have researched it, that'll seem like a silly statement. That's an interesting front plate with orange in the middle. Maybe that would make you think of the Utah plate. This does not, however, look like Utah, so poses some issue for us. I mean, it feels kind of like middle of the country to me. And beyond that, this is very difficult. What is that thing? No, I'm not picking up what that plate is, actually. I can't even tell how far north or south this is. I think default guess here would be Kansas. But we do have a front plate, which is obviously a bit sus for Kansas. So maybe we'd bump it up to Nebraska, but then again, the road didn't really feel too Nebraskan to me. So what about Texas? But then again, something feels cold about some of these trees. I don't know. I'm vibing a bit of coldness here. Or... No, we could be very far away here. I just don't know where this is. I'm going to go Kansas, despite the front. Oh, and it was nice. Yeah, just vibing out the vegetation. And that is a 20k. And I would say, let's do one more. And see if we can go back to back 20k. That would be nice. Immediately difficult one. I'm noticing. Okay, so it looks like they initially had like what's it called, like reflectors here, and they've all been torn off. So that's immediately making me think south, though. Darkish roads making me think south as well. These trees and like kind of the riverside. I think we might be crossing the Mississippi here. It's going east-west though, so maybe not. It's a huge open river. Like it really is huge. Or maybe a lake. But anyway, we got a bridge crossing it. It's probably no. It would be yeah. This is not the Mississippi with the bridge like this, but it's some kind of lake. If I was using logic about it, yeah, very southern looking trees here. I don't know, like it's just a vibe thing. Maybe the road being so red, I would think maybe we're in Tennessee near Memphis or something like that. You get a lot of red roads around there. If you want me to talk about red roads, really, USA is the map to play. So now I'm looking for a north-south bridge across a fairly significant lake out this direction. So that angle's wrong. But the size of the lake is probably a little too big, but something like that. Might not be in luck here, I would say. But yeah, a lot of US is just picking up the vibes and playing a lot. I have to admit. Some occasions here I'd like to have been more helpful, but it's kind of just difficult to be. Oh, I'd love to 5k this. I don't see the 5k though. Maybe it's like literally downtown. Like I would love if there was a bridge going across here. I would just instantly select that one because that just feels right. Ooh, that's unfortunate because this one also looked pretty flipping good. But the lake is bigger east than it is west though as well. So I don't know. Mississippi. Ooh. It's a straight bridge. That's unfortunate because this one actually had some potential. It really did. It says bigger east than it is west. Yeah, it's unfortunate. That one had some potential. Near Jackson there. I don't know. Think we've taken this one to its conclusion, haven't we? But it could still be like Tennessee. I'm curious what kind of body of water this is. Oh, and it was actually Texas. And it was like, yeah, some kind of a sandland. Lake, I mean. It's a lake, not a okay, guys. It was a white road, but yeah, gettable there, gettable for sure. Okay, immediately south vibes off these trees, I would say. Sandy soil, long needles on the pines. It doesn't always work that way, but it does a lot of the time. This looks like, it doesn't even look that American, to be honest. It looks like maybe like, I don't know. It's a hard round. I don't think it's Florida, even though it's very flat. But it is Southern Pines, in my opinion. I would probably try a Georgia here, or in South Carolina or something. Yeah. Oh, interesting. So we got the indented things. These ones are not the same as the one we were talking about before, though. So this could still be basically anywhere, I think. Oh, you know what I'm getting? I'm kind of getting a Pacific Northwest vibe. So how do I describe why? Well, we got front plates everywhere. It's very green. It looks high rainfall. Like even we've got just rain sitting and stuff here. And I've been to Vancouver and it feels like Vancouver. I think this is Seattle area or maybe Portland area. And with the number plate, probably Seattle area. That looks like a Washington plate to me by the color scheme. Yeah, I would love to tell you why exactly. Maybe this tree as well fits. Geoguessr explained is stumped, guys. The yapper has been outdone. I think it's here. Yeah. Don't really have a good one for that though. Sorry. Next one. Okay, huge mountains east. Very epic. No fronts. Very warm, obviously. Like, this would immediately strike you as Nevada. I mean, as New Mexico, Arizona. But there's a lot going on, so probably not Nevada, you know? Feels quite populated and everything. Southwest, you have big mountains, and then we have that kind of, what's it called? Architecture. I forget what it's called. This probably felt more Arizona to me. You see like a lot more of, I guess, like this kind of bush, I would say, in... Oh, can I find a good one? In New Mexico, you get a lot more of like bigger versions of these. So let's see where we can like get like a huge thing east. I didn't really think we were in Phoenix here. But it might be difficult to find actually someone that fits really nicely here. Like here, maybe? We're really like up against something very epic here. So maybe it's a bit... I don't know. It feels quite southern to me, though. And I don't know where this would be. So maybe we're over the border. Tucson, actually? Well, it could be in, like, outskirts of Tucson here. Okay, what about, like, that? That could make some sense. I think I like that. It feels quite southern. Yeah. Let's give it a go. Oh, no, let's just... Oh, yeah, that. If I looked at that, might have gone for it, but it's in New Mexico. Thought it looked more Arizonan. And the final one. Big old palm. Southern-looking pines. Palmettos. Florida license plate. However, I already knew it was going to be there. A phone code would be nice. I know the Floridian ones. But looks like we won't get one. In which case, let us go Orlando. I think it kind of looks like Orlando. Just a bit further south. Okay, so there we go. 18K. I mean, apart from the first seed, everything went rather nicely here. So let me know, guys, let me know what you'd like to see next in terms of countries. And I hope you all enjoy this video. And yeah, thank you for watching. US is just always a joy to play. It really is one of the most diverse and fun countries in Geoguessr. So glad you could join me for it. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.